Hello again. Here is an original tale set in Africa. Long ago in Africa, giraffes were not as tall as our friend here, Gerald the giraffe. Everyone loves Gerald here at RAMM. But no, the ancestors of Gerald were much, much smaller. They had shorter legs and much shorter necks. Think of the original giraffes as the size of horses these days, but of course with a patch coat. Now, one morning, an ancestor of Gerald, Geoffrey, he was nibbling at some grass on the African plains, but the grass didn't taste the way it used to do. Just then, a leaf fell down from a tree nearby. Geoffrey sniffed at this leaf and then his tongue licked up the leaf, and soon he was munching, he was chewing, and a flood of flavour filled his mouth. What taste! How delicious! And he looked up at the tree nearby, at all of the juicy leaves. Oh, but he had short legs, and he had a short neck, and he couldn't, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't reach any of those leaves. He looked at the grass around and thought, oh, boring. I don't want to eat grass anymore. I'm going to wait for another leaf to fall. But he waited, and he watched, and he waited, and he watched, but not one leaf fell that afternoon. Not one leaf let loose in the warm breeze. And Geoffrey decided he was going to go home hungry rather than eat any boring grass, and home he went. First thing next morning, he rushed to the tree, expecting at least 1 or 2 leaves to have fallen overnight, but no, all that was left there was the grass as usual, and he wasn't going to eat any of that. Oh, he looked up at the tree and he thought, if I was a bird, if I had wings, I would fly up into that tree and eat the leaves. If I was a snake, I'd slither up the trunk and I'd eat those leaves. If I was a monkey, I'd swing through the branches, I'd gobble those leaves. If I was a leopard, I'd crawl up into the boughs and get those leaves. It's not fair. Oh, and he stamped on the ground and he stomped about and he snorted and he hopped and he jumped, but he couldn't reach any of those leaves. Poor Geoffrey the giraffe. He sat there on his haunches looking glum. A little bit later, some of his friends came by and they asked him, why did he look so sad? Well, Geoffrey explained everything, and, well, what are friends for? They decided they'd help him. Crocodile said, why don't you climb on my back? And Zebra said, yes, and then Crocodile, you can climb on my back with Geoffrey on top of you. And the Lion said, yes, and then, Zebra, you climb on top of me. And Rhino said, and then you climb on top of me. And then the Elephant said, and all of you can all stand on top of me. We'll make a tall, tall tower. And that's just what they did. Giraffe climbed on top of Crocodile, who climbed on top of Zebra, who climbed on top of Lion, who climbed on top of Rhinoceros, who climbed on top of Elephant. And so now Geoffrey the Giraffe was able to nibble as many of those leaves as he could fit into his mouth. But just then, an ant began to climb up one of the back legs of the elephant. This ant was a very angry ant because earlier in the day, Elephant had stomped on his anthill, injuring his family and friends. And this ant wanted revenge. And the next thing, the ant bit the elephant's bottom. "Ow!" exclaimed the elephant, and all of the tower came tumbling down. Everyone had fallen down, everyone except Geoffrey. Geoffrey was high up in the tree, clenching onto a branch with his teeth, his legs dangling down. He was trying to call for help without opening his mouth. The elephants and all of the crocodiles and lions and other creatures, they looked up at poor Geoffrey. How could they help him? How could they save him? If he was to fall down, he would break his bones. Help, help, help. But then all of the animals put their heads together and decided how to rescue Geoffrey. The crocodiles, they all stood on top of each other to make a crocodile tower. And the zebras, they did just the same, as well as the lions and the rhinoceros. They all made a tall tower of their families. Everyone helped except Elephant, for he was feeling very, very sore. So the families of creatures, they reached up and they grabbed one of Geoffrey's legs each. They tugged and they pulled. Now, even though Geoffrey wanted to be saved, he couldn't let go of those tasty leaves. And as the animals tugged and pulled down, why, his legs began to get longer and longer, and his neck, it stretched as well. Long pulls and stretches, and finally, Geoffrey's hooves were on the ground, while his teeth and tongue were happily nibbling at those delicious leaves. When all of the other shorter giraffes heard about this, I'm sure you can imagine they wanted to look just the same. And so they asked the other animals if the same thing could happen to them. The elephant agreed, as long as the ants would no longer bite their bottoms. And the ants agreed as long as the elephants would never crush their houses. So now you know how giraffes got their long, long necks. Take a look at Gerald here. And remember the story of one of his ancestors, Geoffrey. And I'm sure you'll look forward to seeing Gerald in real life very soon here at RAMM in Exeter.